Good morning and welcome to Axis Direct Opening Bell, a quick pre-market briefing with key global cues, overnight trends, and market-moving insights to keep you ahead. We'll start with the global markets. Overnight in the US, tech strength lifted markets, with the S&P 500 up 0.47%, the Dow marginally higher at a record 50,135, and the Nasdaq gaining 0.9%. The rally extended to Asia. Japan's Nikkei jumped 1.52% to cross 57,000, and the topics rose 1.08%, driven by post-election optimism. Australia's ASX 200 edged up 0.39%, marking a third straight day of gains. In India, Nifty closed at 25,867 yesterday, gaining 174 points, whereas Bank Nifty closed at 60,669, up 549 points. Nifty opened with a bullish gap, driven by positive sentiment around the US-India interim trade framework. However, the index remained lackluster through the session, forming a spinning top near resistance. This resistance is placed around 25,928, which is the 50% Fibonacci retracement of the recent fall from 26,341 to 25,492. The near-term setup stays positive as long as Nifty holds Friday's low at 25,492. For today, a breakout above 25,928 could open upside towards 26,027 and the 26,200 zone. The 26,000 mark remains crucial, being the highest call writing base for the weekly expiry and a trigger for short covering. On the downside, the previous day's bullish gap between 25,781 and 25,704 should offer support, below which Nifty may slip towards 25,500. Meanwhile, Nifty and Bank Nifty futures started the week on a strong footing, rising 180 points and 475 points respectively. Nifty OI declined by 3.6%, suggesting short covering, while Bank Nifty OI surged 15%, indicating fresh long buildup, pointing to a positive bias for the indices. FIIs continued with a strong inflow of 2,254 crore in the cash market, taking cumulative net inflows to 4,900 crore, while the long-short ratio stayed flat at 0.19. Despite cash buying, FIIs turned bullish in derivatives, covering short futures, adding long calls and trimming puts. Retail traders turned aggressive on calls and stayed net short on puts, while proprietary desks grew bearish, selling calls heavily and cutting back on put shorts. Volatility edged up, with India VIX rising 2% to 12.19, signaling a mild uptick in uncertainty. Futures premiums edged up slightly in Nifty by 7 points, while Bank Nifty slipped 73 points. PCR strengthened to 1.11 for Nifty and 1.06 for Bank Nifty ahead of weekly expiry. Rupee weakened by 11 paise to 90.76. Sectorally, media led with gains of 4.37%, while IT remained largely flat, rising 0.02%. In F&O space, Kalyan Jewellers gained 14.7%, while REC Limited slipped 3.6%, topping losers. On commodities, gold climbed over 1.85% to settle at $5,058 per ounce on Monday, marking its highest close in more than a week. Gains were supported by softer real yields, a weaker US dollar, and renewed safe haven demand ahead of key US economic data. Silver surged over 7% to around $83.36 per ounce, extending last week's rebound. The rally was driven by easing inflation expectations, lower real yields, and a softer dollar ahead of US labor market and CPI data, which could reinforce expectations of the Federal Reserve easing later this year. Oil prices rose over 1.5% after the US Department of Transportation advised US-flagged vessels to stay as far as possible from Iranian waters while transiting the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf of Oman, citing ongoing risks of interference by Iranian forces. That's it for today. Please note that this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as financial advice. Please refer to our website for the full disclaimer. Thank you and see you in the next episode. Investments in securities markets are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.